G'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow, and in this video I'm going to run through how to install a track bar bracket and brace, and also a sector shaft brace for your Jeep JK Wrangler. So let's get started. First step really is to jack up your Jeep at the front and take off both tyres there so you have some easy access. We're going to need a 21mm. Makes life a whole lot easier when you've got your teeny tiny little road tyres on. And here is, from the side of the Jeep, a little bit of a better view of what we're trying to do here. This is our track bar bracket here that is connected to the frame itself. So this is what we're going to be bracing. Here's our 4 bolts connected to the actual steering box itself. I've already given them a decent squirt with the penetrant of choice. I've used some inox, but use whatever you've got. So we're going to need to remove these guys, which we'll do in a moment. That's our steering box. We can't really see it in there. It's in there. But that's what connects our track bar brace. Is going to connect down from these guys into here and brace this bracket from the track bar. It is quite skinny. The main reason we want that though is so that we can brace our sector shaft, which is this guy coming out the top here. This is our Pitman arm that we were looking at just before, and connecting to our drag link. So let's get started. Alright, so track bar out of the way, just pop him to the side. This is our bracket now, all nice and freed up, and essentially that's where this guy will then sit in there like that. So the next step is to remove the 4 bolts that attaches our steering box to the frame. We need to be careful when we're doing the last one to support the steering box itself, otherwise it will drop down. So just get ready and support that as best you can when you are removing it. We're going to need a 18mm. And an extension. And before you do this last one, remember to secure it from the top. And that's the last one. Once all 4 of the bolts are out and your steering box is nice and braced, you need to grab your bracket itself and essentially slip it into place. And then it will just come in over the top of the existing bracket. So you just got to jam it into place. And once the bracket is where it needs to be, grab just one of the bolts themselves and just use it there just to sort of align it. Next is to grab the track bar itself, pop it in here and just finger tight put the bolt itself through. Now the bolt hole should be nice and aligned. If it's not, just grab a hammer and just once you have the track bar back installed into the new bracket and the housing looks like it's in the right spot there, you want to grab the actual steering box bolts now and you want to reinstall them. Now before you do, make sure you use a little bit of Loctite. The instructions call for blue Loctite, but make sure you've got something on there. You probably don't really want this guy coming away while you're cruising down your trail of choice. Next up, you want to grab a couple of the 1-inch nuts, and their washers there as well, with the stover bolts there, and they need to go in these couple of holes here, facing that way so that the nut is on the outside. I found it easier if make sure you drop that track bar before you do this one, otherwise that's going to be really impossible to get in there. Once you've got these guys in and everything all lined up, next is to tighten everything down. So everything needs to go to 70 foot-pounds, so 70 foot-pounds. So grab your torque wrench, we're going to zap these guys and also our 2 new stover nuts here as well. This is our sector shaft brace, and that's going to slide in there and sit up like that. But before we can get that guy in, this big guy needs to come off. Now I've already soaked it with some penetrant. I've used some inox, but use whatever you prefer. And then you're going to need a big socket, which conveniently I've got a big set of sockets, and this is a 34, which of course is bigger than what comes in my big set, so you might have to go and grab one, but a 34mm is what you're going to need to get this nut off. Now that's as far as you need to go. You don't need to remove the actual Pitman arm itself, you just need access to the shaft here itself, and that is your sector shaft. You can see how this is keyed, and it's keyed onto the shaft itself. So if you've never seen that, worthwhile having a look. Other than that, don't take the Pitman shaft off. It's probably not going to come out anyway. To get these guys off is always a bit of a mish, but once you've got it off, we're on to the next step. Now to do this section, we're going to need the brace. You're going to need your new nut here, and then we can disregard the nut that came off the existing factory one because we're going to use this guy instead, but you will need to reuse the factory lock washer. So give this one a bit of a clean up. You want to slide that nut in through here just like that, and then this guy would sit on the top there. It's recommended to put some anti-seize or something in through the threads so that if you do need to get this guy off in the future, it's not going to be too much trouble. So once you have this all together, you'll have your new bolt that'll go in there through the bearing. We have our lock washer as well, and you want it to make sure that you've got it in the right way. If you've got it upside down, it's not going to work. It's pretty straightforward. This can only go in one way. Have it all lined up, put your lock washer in there, and then slide up your new nut so that it sits in place. Now at this point, you don't have to tighten anything up like crazy. Just sit it in there so that it's able to be tightened once you get your side bolts on. Now we need to get our little nuts like these with the flangey piece there. We need one of those, we need a washer, and we need the nut itself. And once you've got everything installed here with the nuts in, make sure you put a washer underneath the nut, just like on this side here, and then just install the nuts as well. These screws are the 3/4 inch ones, and you don't want to tighten this right up at this time until everything is torqued properly because there's a sequence. So just finger tight it and get it all in there ready to go. Now the manual calls for a specific sequence here. It calls for the Pitman arm stud to be done up first, and that's to go to 150 foot-pound of torque, so that's fairly significant. Make sure you get that one right. Obviously that one's pretty important, being that if that goes, you lose your steering. So make sure you use a torque wrench, don't just snug it, use a torque wrench to make it right. Next is just these guys up the top here, so they are to go to 50 foot-pound. Now you want to get your Allen key in there. It's a bit of a job to get everything in, but it is doable, and it's only 50 foot-pound. So make sure they're nice and snug as well. So here's the finished product from the top end. Everything is nice and torqued. So these guys were to 70 foot-pound. These guys are to 50. These guys are to 70. So 70, 50, 70, and 70. Once that's all nice, that's the way it should look. These guys, you'll notice, should be nice and flush by the time that you have torqued these up properly. Now the last step that Synergy calls for is to grease the bearing, and you can do that via the nipple up the top here, the little grease zert. So a couple of pumps apparently will do the trick, and I'd probably be looking for a little bit of evidence coming out of the bottom section there. Looking forward to seeing how the Jeep drives and seeing if the steering is any tighter. I'm thinking I probably was getting a little bit of deflection in the sector shaft itself, which is effectively it moving ever so slightly, especially rolling with the big 35s, and it'd be even worse rolling with 37s or greater. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next one.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Click here if you want to subscribe to the channel. You'll find lots of other videos showing you through how to do all sorts of stuff, just like this one and also this one. Other than that, I hope you have a great day. Remember to hit the subscribe button. It really helps support the channel, and I'll see you next time.